YouTube, what's good? We are back with another one. We are here with the part 3 of the FNAF Ultimate Timeline. Link in the description to the original video. This is a MatPat FNAF Ultimate Timeline video. The first two, I don't know, bro. After seeing the first two, it got me really excited to see what else is going on in here. I want to say the last thing we heard about was him like starting up. No. He was still stuck inside of the I don't know what you call it, I think spring trap or something like that. He was just chilling. So now we get to see like what is going to happen from then on out. We saw the FNAF movie trailer. I think Springtrap was in there or something like that. So that's cool to see. If you want to see any more FNAF reactions or just FNAF content in general, this is the place. Make sure you subscribe, leave a like, and yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. All right, here we go.
William still wasn't back. Weird. Michael knew his father.
This is where we left off on.
Disappearing for days on end, but usually there was some sort of notice, a phone call, a post-it, something.
Who is the? Oh, okay, so I know this is not related to what we're watching right now, but I have to ask. In the FNAF movie trailer, the guy that's going to be the security guard, who is that going to be? Because if I'm not mistaken from watching this, at one point the security guard ends up being his son. But that's not his son, right? I don't know. I don't know if you guys even know, but yeah, that's what I'm asking. I'm a little confused.
As a household of two suffering men coping with years of tragedy and loss, there was at least some element of communication between the two of them. They were united by a name and a shared pain. This time, though, things felt different. William had left nothing. His absence was longer. There were no check-ins, no updates, just silence. Something had happened. If there was one thing Michael knew about his father, it was that he had contingencies, safety checks, backup plans. His father was a careful and guarded man. He held his cards close to his chest, and as such, William had prepared.
I wonder why. I wonder why.
His father kept his home office locked, but in the event of an unexpected, prolonged absence, Michael had been instructed to enter his father's office and look behind an empty set of shelves mounted in the corner of the room. Rolling his eyes, Michael entered the office. Never fully understood how William was able to spend so many hours of his days locked up in here.
You don't see why he spent all his time in there.
He dragged himself over to the shelf in the corner, expecting to find an emergency contact list, a family safety deposit box. But what he actually found there was completely unexpected.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be.
Was it going to be one of the animatronics?
Open and revealed a giant industrial elevator, one that led straight down into an underground bunker. But that was impossible. Hidden inside
I've seen like this game before. Like I've never like actually like seen like for real gameplay, but like whenever they showed that, I've seen it before. So this is one of the games. So one of the games you play as Michael, and like this is like the underground bunker or something. Okay, all right, for sure.
Underground science lab?
I don't know which one this is though.
It didn't make any sense. Seriously, it didn't make any sense. And yet here it was, mapped directly underneath the floor plan of the house that he'd grown up in. Lost his
a whole underground bunker.
Michael thought that he'd known his father, a prideful, sad, angry man with petty everyday problems, but clearly he'd been living with a stranger.
Nah, clearly you've been living with Grimace. You've been living with Grimace, bro.
Inside of his office made sense. He'd been here the entire time. Where was here, though? Was this Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rentals?
Circus Baby
restaurant always did seem to be a deeply personal project for Father. A failure of his that cut unusually deep, especially after that first location had to be closed prematurely due to the gas leaks. After that day, Father really did seem to change, to lose himself even more in his work. Clearly, the entrance he had found was some sort of secret back way into the facility, one that required crawling through vents to navigate. His father had been working here, but
nah, bro, I couldn't do it.
That's when he found her. At the end of the facility, Circus Baby, his father's pride and joy. Except something was different about her. She wasn't like the others. The way she talked, the stories she told. This wasn't just a robot.
That would creep me out, bro.
Somehow. And not
I would not be able to do that, bro.
Also felt familiar.
There is something bad inside of me. I'm broken. I can't be fixed. Will you help me?
Was this?
Where's he getting these audio files from?
William's baby
is it one of the
girl?
games?
But how? Why? What was this place? He dug around some old files and found blueprints outlining the features of these animatronics. Storage containers, voice mimicking, parental tracking. And was that a child in Freddy's stomach? Was his father collecting and experimenting on kids?
Bro, at that point, I'm
rumors that
out,
he'd heard
bro.
throughout his past actually true? That the animatronics came to life at night? That there were murders done in all the pizzerias? That his father had somehow been the prime suspect in all of it? Suddenly, Michael's mind flashed back to his persistent nightmares throughout his childhood.
Bro, see,
he'd been
I'm just looking because I know at some point we're gonna have to play these games, but like just looking at these pictures, like I'm scared, y'all. Like I be scared. I do not like scary games. Looking at these pictures is not helping, bro. Like nah. Animatronics are already scary as is.
Stung in his eyes as anger Fear and confusion filled his body. His father's secrets were pouring out. William wasn't just a lame, overworked father. He was a monster, toying with life itself. Suddenly, everything clicked. He frantically looked around the room, blinking human heads on poles staring back at him.
What?
Green eyes, his sister. Blue eyes, his brother. Closed eyes, his mom. All just staring.
Closed eyes? Why
expectantly.
was his
These
mom
were
be
meant to be
closed
human.
eyes?
William was working down here trying to make believable humans, literally rebuilding the family that they had both lost. The small little girl robots with their British accents roaming the hallways of this underground facility suddenly took on a whole new context.
Heck no. Nope, 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 nope.
Were those meant to be his sister? A replacement for her? A clone? Was William building clones of his sister? They seemed to know him, after all, to react to his presence.
They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you.
That's the
He
son?
always did have a bit of
He sound like an
resemblance to
old
his
man,
father.
bro.
Michael's mind reeled as the
Damn.
reality of his world crumbled to dust. No, he had to get them out of there. If this really was his sister, heck, if any of these things were human, souls, whatever remnant of the humans that they once were, they needed to be rescued.
They always put us back inside. There's nowhere for us to hide here.
Led by the voice of Circus Baby, he marched
So
through
how
the
was
now
he-
empty halls of the Funtime Auditorium. He would lead them. He would protect them. And finally, he would be able to forgive himself for the killing of his brother so many years.
Oh no. Don't tell him be Pops
We're
got
in
him.
the scooping room now. The scooper only hurts for a moment.
No, Pops is still inside of the thing.
Scooper, that violent extraction arm? Michael had seen that one in the pile of blueprints. Something about heat rendering the magical silver metal inside useless. In reality, prior to getting himself spring-locked and put behind the wall, William's methods had become increasingly sophisticated, with a mechanized arm that could infuse new bodies with a soul. William
What?
could finally give and take away life. The only thing he needed were the bodies. But
Yeah.
William wasn't the only one looking for bodies, as Michael was about to learn.
But if we looked like you, then we could hide.
What do you mean
If
by
we
that?
looked like you, then we would have somewhere to go.
Michael was going to be the hero to
Looked
help
like
these
him, but how
animatronics,
could he
alright.
do
He was
that?
going to help the haunted tubes and wires of these animatronics escape, just not in the way that he anticipated. His sister had lied to him, another game of pretend. The scooper plowed forward, digging its extraction arm into his body, as he heard his bones ripping through his
Oh, she got him. She got him. I didn't even peep that that's what she was doing. Whole time she wasn't trying to help. She wasn't trying to get him to help them out. She was trying to get him
flesh.
to get
Michael
scooped.
blacked out.
But something is
got
wrong
scooped
with
up.
me. I should be dead, but I'm not.
Now he turned into a grimace.
For the next several months, Michael's life was not his own. He was forced to comply with a tangle of wires.
So
and
what is he? Like,
spirits
who
that
is he
lived
in the-
inside
in
of
the-
him.
in the
His body
games?
felt like an overfilled balloon begging to burst as day by day, week by week, his flesh began to sag and discolor. He was a walking, talking, rotting corpse, alive, but wishing he wasn't. He was a puppet, a walking shell. And while he did his best to conceal his fate, there was only so much a man filled with robot spaghetti could do. The entity in his innards would eventually leave, but by that point, the damage
Yeah.
had been
Okay. So I
done.
don't know if you guys know, but we also watched. We ended up watching another person's video. I'm sorry, I don't remember their name. A Foot of a Ferret. We watched their video where they just kind of went over the whole thing kind of quickly, and I remember hearing about this part, so I kind of know what he's talking about already.
His decaying flesh stank,
Yeah.
turning him into a literal purple guy. But still, even with no bones, even with rotting purple flesh and begging to die, Michael continued to live. That silvery metal remnant injected by the scooper meant that he couldn't die.
So
His
he's just
anger
flopping
also
around?
refused to die. What he had seen down there in his sister's location had rocked him to his core. His father had
Oh,
killed and
sister
captured dozens.
location.
His experiments had killed his sister and then tortured him throughout all his childhood.
Bro, that's a crazy like what do you call it, like a double entendre, like sister location, because it's like a sister like thing of the original Freddy Fazbear's or whatever it was called, right? But also sister location because it's his sister's location.
Childhood. He was actively
Come on, bro.
trying
I
to build
didn't even peep
human
that.
replicates.
Obviously, I didn't peep
He
that 'cause I
didn't know
didn't know the
where his
story, but
father
yeah.
was, but Michael knew that he was out there somewhere.
That's crazy.
Been living in shadows. There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you.
Michael had to correct for the sins of his father. He had to make things right. Michael would burn Fazbear Entertainment to the ground. I mean, what else could you do when your skin was permanently purple? Michael's strategy was simple. He would apply for night security guard positions at
and
the
this is what I was talking
old
about earlier.
pizzeria locations. That way, no one ever had to see him or smell him during his shift. And all these old, shuttered locations did need guards. Teenage vandals and squatters were always looking to get inside these abandoned buildings, and yet no one ever really wanted to work an overnight graveyard shift unless they were practically out of options. Enter Mike. One
Like,
by
why are
one,
you
he would
even
take on the job of security guard, changing his name each time to ensure that no one was able to follow his paper trail. Once inside, he
that's
could tamper
pretty
with the
smart, I
animatronics
guess.
and figure out how they worked, writing about his experiences in his security logbook. While there, he would listen to the old tapes where upper management
writing with no
awkwardly
bones.
welcomed new recruits to their summer jobs, even though he was working there nowhere near the summer months. He heard the gory details of his father's franchise from the outsiders looking in, confused and afraid about what was happening in the walls around them. Sometimes he would see his brother in the form of the Golden Freddy suit. It's me appearing on the walls around him. Except now, there was something else there. He was no longer alone. Another angrier presence was also in the suit, as if two spirits were forced to share the same body. And Golden Freddy
so
would
that is
attack
what
him.
happened, right?
It was aggressive. Its vengeance wanted to lash out at anyone with the Afton name, anyone who wore a security guard outfit. Over time, Mike worked his way through the old restaurants, the original pizzeria, the bigger, better Freddy Fazbear's. He spent weeks there looking for clues as to his father's whereabouts, and each time at the end of his week shift, he would then set the location on fire. Remnant can't survive high temperatures after all. So burning away whatever spirit-laden animatronics that still existed inside seemed like a winning strategy. All this revisiting of his past, though, was causing the nightmares to begin again. Hallucinations that brought him back to his childhood.
not that again.
The
He was
guilt
tripping
around
that
killing
one
his
time.
brother. His dreams were
Well, actually,
probably
his
mixed
dad
with
did
the
that,
shrill
but
phone
yeah.
calls of the security guards. But it would all be worth it in the end. The goal was to eventually stumble across the one location, the one job that would finally reunite him with his father. Little did Mike know that that day would come sooner than he expected.
So from what I'm understanding, he doesn't even know like where his dad is. He doesn't know that his dad got trapped inside of an animatronic. He doesn't know like any of that. So he may just like find him. And the other thing is, even if he does all this, what is he gonna do? Like, say he does succeed and burns all this down. What does he do? Like, he can't like
came across
die,
Mike's
right?
TV. Fazbear Frights, a new horror attraction inspired by the awful crimes that occurred around Freddy Fazbear's Pizza so many years ago. It made Mike sick. People looking to make a quick buck off the tragedy of others, off his own family. This wasn't a joke or entertainment. Regardless, he had to be a part of it. If this team was combing through his family's history, they might stumble across something that could be useful. And if his father was truly still alive as he suspected, there would be no way that he wouldn't show up here. Maybe
Just so he doesn't know if he's
finally,
alive or
this
not.
could be the final
Gotcha.
chapter in his family's marathon of tragedy.
Wonder if he'll
Mike
recognize
applied
him
for
when
the
he does
job
see
and
him.
was immediately handed the keys. Years of doing this had taught him that security guards rarely receive thorough security checks. They
Looks
also liked how
human
creepy
check.
Mike was. They thought it was a costume, on theme for the job. What little they knew.
Hey, glad you came back for another night. I promise it'll be a lot more interesting this time.
For weeks, there was nothing. But just as Mike considered giving up, he received the call that he'd been waiting for years.
You're not gonna believe this. We found one. A real one.
Could this finally be
A real
him?
what?
Sure enough, there he was.
Oh, the-
William
yeah,
inside his
yeah.
iconic
Springtrap.
golden Bonnie Springlock suit. Only now it was green and decaying with age. And there they were, a small family of broken men finally reunited. It's been a long time, Dad. Mike had always struggled with the phantoms of his past haunting him,
see,
but now,
bro, I'm just imagining like just playing, bro. Like, let me check the cameras. All right, let me put the camera down, see what happens. Like all up in my face, bro. Like I'm old, bro. My heart can't take it.
animatronics he'd encountered
Look
over the
at
past
it, bro.
months, hopping
Chica
from
is, like,
pizzeria to
freaky.
pizzeria suddenly sprang to life. Their burned
Nah,
faces
bro.
haunting him as he tried
Nah,
to keep track of his
bro.
father on the cameras. It would seem that William's mere presence had put the spirits on high alert. Ultimately, they were harmless, more annoying than anything else, but there was one that felt different from the others. One that was more than just a mere phantom. The security puppet. If he looked at the cameras at just the right moment, he could see it floating there through the halls. He could even see its reflection in the water pool down the
Nah,
ground.
bro, that
It seemed
security
like
puppet is
he wasn't the only
freaky,
one there
bro.
on a mission. While he was dealing with Springtrap, Michael assumed that this one was likely dealing with the spirits of this place, finally setting them to rest. Hopefully this means a happier day for all of us, Mike thought to himself. And in that moment, he felt the air around him release, like pressure being let out of a bottle. The building sighed, as if 5 spirits had finally been allowed to move on. He had the sense that his brother was a part of them. He rigged the wiring
Nice.
inside the building to misfire, and the dry, desiccated walls erupted in flames. It is finished.
Or so he thought.
Except it was not. Somehow, through sheer force of will, Afton remained. He had survived, and Mike would need to find a new way of finishing off his father. Luckily,
That's
the solution
crazy,
would present
bro.
itself later that year. Not from Mike, but from another victim that had been left in his father's wake.
We're talking about becoming a Fazbear Entertainment franchisee.
So Mike
restaurant
survived, right? So,
ownership and management.
Maybe I just wasn't paying attention or what, but it never said if Mike like set it on fire while he was in there. He just set it on fire and left. So to my understanding, I think Mike's still alive because he said he would have to find another way to like get rid of him.
Something almost anyone can do with a limited degree of success. You are now the face of the newly rebranded Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Fazbear Entertainment as a brand had been closed for years. William had been stuck in a suit and a wall. The only person who legally could bring the franchise back was Henry, but he'd largely pulled out of the franchise around the time of his father's disappearance.
Not
Something
good,
was up.
bro. Get out of
Surely
there.
This had to be some kind of a trick, right? Mike, doing what he did best, applied for a franchise and immediately got the job. There was just
Okay, so he's still
nothing
alive.
out of the ordinary. Paragraph 4.
If you are playing this tape, that means that not only have you been checking outside at the end of every shift, as you were instructed to do, but also that you have found something that meets the criteria of your special obligations under paragraph 4.
No employment contract he'd ever signed required him to keep special lookout for independently moving animatronics outside the restaurant. Now he knew something was up here. Henry was luring them all back. Rather than trying to go to them, like Mike had done for years, Henry was doing the opposite. He was putting them all under the same roof. He was finishing them off for good. Mike knew this wasn't meant to be a restaurant. It was meant to be a prison, a containment vessel, a locked box meant to trap them all in so they could finally end the madness.
Pretty
Took
smart,
a few
though.
nights, but eventually everyone was there. His father, the puppet, the robot spaghetti that had once violated his body, and his sister, now hopelessly devoted to serve the man that had once gotten her killed. It was time. He had been instructed to seal the doors and leave, but while he locked everything down, he didn't move on. If this was truly meant to be the end, if
Okay.
the remnant
That's what I
needed to be
figured he was
washed
gonna do the
away,
first time.
he needed to be a part of that.
This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you, although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace and perhaps more waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole.
Oh, you talking about
So don't
Afton?
keep the devil waiting.
Hell yeah.
With that, it was over. The Afton legacy died with all of them
Or
trapped
so you
inside of a
thought, 'cause
literal
obviously there's
box.
more,
The
right? 'Cause there's a
flames
whole nother
danced around
part.
the
There's
office.
more
Mike,
games.
for the first time in decades, was happy. But William wasn't gone yet. Although
Bro,
the
this
darkest
dude-
pit of hell was
bro.
open and waiting.
What is William like the Terminator? Like, what is he doing, bro? This nigga can survive anything.
For him, something or
Come on
someone
now.
wouldn't allow him to move on. Instead, he found himself locked in moments from his past. The pizzeria, his son's room, his underground bunker. It was as if his brain's neurons were all firing at once, overloaded, mixing and matching all his biggest fears, regrets, failures. What was this place? How did he get here? He called out into the silence. Then they started
nah.
coming. Without warning, animatronics, both new and old, began to jump out at him, bite him, rip him limb from limb. The pain was immeasurable. Make it stop. Make it stop. William, for the first time,
Seemed like
longed
purgatory
for
or
death,
something?
an end to this torture. Just as it felt like he couldn't take it anymore, everything was quiet again. It was as if the world had been reset. There was a brief moment of quiet, and then the onslaught began again. Dozens of faces from his past all focused on him. A waking nightmare that he couldn't escape from. More pain, more ripping. It was his own personal hell, but why? Why couldn't he just die? And then he saw them, a group of characters he never thought he'd see again.
Oh,
Those
the-
janky, stolen
the-
characters
yeah,
that
yeah.
started everything. The mediocre melodies.
mediocre
It had all
melodies.
started to go wrong once they showed up. Once Henry had made them. But mixed in with their obnoxious southern drawls, William heard something else. It was barely a whisper, but he could just make out the words.
He tried to release you. He tried to release us. But I'm not gonna let that happen. I will hold you here. I will keep you here. No matter how many times they burn us.
That voice. He
Who
knew
is
that
it,
voice,
though?
but from where?
If that's one of those animatronics, like how? Because those animatronics never had kids in them, right? Or a soul? I don't even know. Y'all gonna have to help me out,
The
bro.
one he should
It does
have
get
killed.
confusing.
William thought back. He'd done a lot of awful things, but there was always the one that stood out. Not Charlie, his drunken act of revenge. Not Susie, his first true murder. No. Instead, it was the one that he had lost control with. The one that he had broken beyond repair for no good reason other than because he could. The one that he'd stuffed inside the golden bear that his partner used to wear. Cassidy. They were back, and now they were trying to punish him, to make him suffer like he'd made them suffer. It was almost like William and Cassidy's souls had been locked together, fused by a collective rage and spite, each refusing to move on. But while Cassidy was so focused on taking revenge, they actually did the one thing that would be the downfall for so many others. They kept William alive. Even though fire should have destroyed the remnant that was coursing through his being, Cassidy kept William breathing, paving the way for his escape. William's will was so strong, his soul so powerful that he managed to put a part of himself inside the circuitry that housed the spring-locked suit. And
that's
there,
insane,
his consciousness lay inside a single
No, that's
circuit
insane. This
board,
dude is just like,
waiting for someone
I
to
don't
find
even know,
him
bro.
and set him free. A
Like
person
moving
that
your
no one
consciousness. But like that's like some AOT stuff. Bro. I don't know if y'all ever seen AOT, but like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Like what?
Okay, so a bit of a shorter chunk, but an important one as we shift perspectives to Mike and tell his side of the story. And with FNAF VR, AR, and Security Breach having so much to explain, I didn't want to rush through things by trying to cram it all
So you
in
do
here.
got one
Don't
more.
worry, I know you've all been patient. The final video is happening on March 25th. That is locked, it is getting ready to go. Trust me, I want this thing to be over and done with as much as you. I am not just stretching it out for the views. But before we wrap up for the day, I did want to talk about the big Orville elephant in the room, Mike's quest for revenge. You might have noticed that I was vague about the dates, and there's a good reason for that. I don't know them. There is no good way for me to make them fit in. Here's what I do know. We know with a high amount of certainty that Michael Afton is the character that we play as up until Ultimate Custom Night. Mike Schmidt and Fritz Smith, the security guards for FNAF 1 and FNAF 2 respectively, get fired for, quote, tampering with the animatronics and odor. So weird connection between the two of them, right? But now,
Imagine getting fired for odor, bro. No, that's crazy, bro.
Us in FNAF 3. They use models from both FNAF 1 and FNAF 2, meaning whoever is sitting in that security guard chair, Fazbear Frights, they have to have seen both locations and their animatronics. And that's not all. Their designs are burnt. It's a weird detail in the game, and it's something that the character encyclopedia repeatedly calls attention to. The burned texture for these phantom animatronics. Why is that so unusual, though? Fazbear Frights is the first time in the franchise that we hear about anything burning down. From that point on in the story, it's like the characters turn pyro and are suddenly setting fires left and right. But for the first 3 games, nothing ever catches fire. The animatronics are just moved or repurposed in some way. So when did they burn? And why would our security guards see them as being burned? Someone has to have been going location to location, setting these places on fire, purging the sins of the past. We know we're definitely playing as Mike and Sister Location in FNAF 6 based on the in-game dialogue. And in FNAF 4, there's an Easter egg where we can hear the phone call from Night 1 of FNAF 1, meaning that whoever's in that bedroom has heard the recording as a security guard. We also know that Mike has seen the nightmare animatronics based on his drawings in the security logbook. So overall, there is solid evidence that connects all of FNAFs 1 through 6. You'll also notice how the
research on this is insane.
Doesn't have a page for Mike Afton. This thing has a page for Chocolate Bunny Bonnie, but not Michael. Some tells me they don't want us to confirm how many games he's been in, because that would confirm too much of the theory. In short, this gives us an incredibly compelling and complete narrative. Mike as our protagonist, and William, his father, as our antagonist. Mike accidentally kills his brother in Fredbear's mouth.
This is such a cool story, bro, when you really think about it.
Pathway of destruction. Mike,
especially since like you gotta like give props to this, because there's no way they sat there and had this whole story already together when they first made the first game. They kind of just went with it as they went along, and for it to still kind of like mesh together in like a way that's not too awkward, or at least from my understanding, it's not too awkward. That's a good job, bro.
Aston is looking to make things right across the rest of the games. In Sister Location, he learns what his father's been up to and realizes what he has to do to correct it. After failing to finish the job in FNAF 3, he ultimately helps Henry end it all in FNAF 6. It is great. It is a clean narrative. There is just one problem: timing. Mike's quest can't really start until he's been down to Sister Location, seen Baby, and gotten himself scooped. That's when he finds out about Afton's secret life. It's also when he's gonna start to smell, because, you know, he's a walking, talking, rotting corpse. And we know that he's not going down into the bunker until the Funtime animatronics have been made, Freddy's has been closed, and Afton is out of the picture. That all should be happening post 1993, after William is sealed behind a wall. But that then presents us with
that
a few
freaking
problems.
screenshot.
Afton has already dismantled the original animatronics, as we see in
you
the
look like
FNAF
tired in that
minigames.
picture.
How are those things getting burned if they're already deconstructed? But more importantly, we see FNAF 2 paychecks with the date 1987. That is way earlier than I think it can be. To be fair, Fritz Smith's pink slip on Night 7 doesn't have a date, but it's a bit weird to to say that the first few nights are in 1987, and then employee number 3 is hired on years after the restaurant closes. Anyway, just wanted to call that out because I don't have a solid answer for it, and I'd love to see your comments down below. And with that, my friends, this chapter comes to a close.
Okay, so that was the FNAF Ultimate Timeline Part 3. As I said, this is a cool story, bro. Like I said, it's just like if they created this story kind of like just going along, it is impressive because it does kind of flow a little bit in a sense. I know like sometimes if you did do something like this, there's going to be points and times where like it just doesn't make sense or it's kind of choppy. You're like, oh, how did that happen? How did this happen? But I don't know. I got to give them props for that. It makes me more interested to play the games rather than like how it would have been if I would have just hopped on and played, because I wouldn't have known, I wouldn't have cared. I would just be like, oh, I'm getting scared. But now that you're kind of in there, you can kind of immerse a little bit, kind of look around, see what you can find yourself. But like, I don't know, it makes me even more excited for the movie, because now to create this as a movie, because this whole ultimate like lore that they got is like wild. I don't know, I'm excited for it. I'm glad that I hopped into the FNAF like journey as a whole. If you want to see any more FNAF content, make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new. We got the part 4 coming. After the part 4, I don't know, maybe we'll start playing games and then also watch some other stuff. I heard there's like songs, we could probably watch some trailers, all that stuff. So let me know if you got any suggestions. I would appreciate it. Love you guys, and I'll catch you in the next video.
So with that being said, take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.